So, President Trump just pitched a new twin-engine version of the F-35 that he's dubbed the F-55. The president proposed this upgrade along with what he called a super F-22 upgrade from Qatar this morning. First, mentioning a simple, as he put it, F-35 upgrade that's already in the works, probably in reference to the sweeping list of 75 or more changes being made to the aircraft that are set to begin this summer in what we commonly call the Block 4 upgrade. But then he went on to say, and I quote, "We're also doing an F-55, and that's going to be a substantial upgrade, but it's also going to be also with two engines, because the F-35 has a single engine. I don't like single engines." Now, after losing out on the opportunity to build America's next stealth fighter, Lockheed Martin's CEO, Jim Taiclet, did pitch what he called a Ferrari upgrade for the F-35, which, at the time, I argued could likely include advanced new adaptive cycle engines, a gallium nitride active electronically scanned array radar, new long-range infrared sensors, stealthy drop tanks, and maybe even new wing configurations and control surfaces akin to developing an F-35 equivalent to the Raptor-based fighter bomber known as the FB-22 or the cranked arrow delta-winged F-16XL from the 80s. This FB-35, as I called it, would have been more attack-oriented than today's F-35, sacrificing some degree of speed and aerobatic maneuverability for vastly improved range and payload. But Trump's F-55 actually sounds a lot more like a different proposal that, in the past, I've called the Joint Strike Raptor. You see, F-22 production was cut short after just 186 Raptors were delivered, and to ensure no nation ever got their hands on the tooling required to build their own, Lockheed Martin was ordered to destroy it, effectively guaranteeing no more F-22s could ever be built. But by 2017, Congress recognized that this was a pretty short-sighted decision, and they commissioned a secret study into what it might cost to restart Raptor production. And they found that it would cost around $61 billion in today's currency to build just 194 new F-22s. Now that shakes out to right around $326 million per new Raptor, which is a fair bit more than the US intends to spend on the new F-47. But just 1 year later, Lockheed Martin pitched a different approach, this time to Japan, offering to build them hybrid fighters based on the F-22 Raptor's design, but carrying the F-35's more modern and advanced avionics suite. Now, this proposal would have seen Japan fund the initial effort to stand up production, and then both Japan and the United States would be able to purchase these new Joint Strike Raptors for as little as just $177 million a jet, which adjusted to today's inflation is right around $208 million per jet. Now that shakes out to about twice the price of an F-35A, but for what would arguably be the most advanced and capable fighter ever conceived, at least short of the 6th gen designs making their way toward service now. But ultimately, both the US and Japan recognize that moving forward with this Joint Strike Raptor concept would be investing tens of billions of dollars into a fighter design that was finalized 10 years before the first iPhone hit the market. But this new F-55 concept, as crazy as it does sound, may be more realistic than the Joint Strike Raptor, mostly because it would involve making changes to an existing production line rather than standing up an entirely new one, bringing down at least some of the immense cost of developing the F-55's production infrastructure. But more realistic still doesn't necessarily mean feasible. In a real way, adding a second engine to the F-35 would require such an immense overhaul of the aircraft's design, its stealth geometries, and many of its subsystems that calling it an F-35 upgrade at all rings to me as either a misnomer or intentional marketing. But it's not exactly like there's never been a precedent for that. Boeing's F/A-18 Super Hornet, as one great example, is famously a completely different aircraft from the F/A-18 Hornet it's supposed to be based on. It just borrows design cues and a name from that original Hornet to help shape perceptions of the program as an inexpensive upgrade rather than a pricey new clean sheet design. And Lockheed Martin, or the president, may be doing the same thing with the F-55, calling it an improved or upgraded F-35 just to round off the pointier edges of what's sure to be an incredibly expensive proposal. So, what can we really make of this F-55 idea? Well, to tell you the truth, I'm not really sure. The president's concerns about single-engine fighters don't really reflect the modern-day reality of tactical aviation. Today's single-engine fighters are, broadly speaking, safer than yesterday's twin-engine platforms, thanks to advancing turbofan technologies. Though you could get more performance, maybe a higher top speed, higher altitudes, supercruise capabilities, or more from adding a second engine to the aircraft. But maybe most importantly, we're talking about what would amount to an immense financial undertaking, and one that the president is proposing while his Defense Department mulls over pushing the production of the Navy's new stealth fighter in development, back by almost 3 years, over cost. Now, knowing what we do about the billions of dollars worth of design and infrastructure changes that would be required just to begin F-55 production, it is tough to reconcile the two. One could argue that it would obviously be better to invest that money into the new fighters that the Navy has been clear that they need, rather than modifying other fighters that are already in production that nobody's asked for. But hey, could a twin-engine F-55 be useful? It absolutely could. I'm just not confident that it could be done while the Pentagon also pays for new ICBMs and silos, new submarines, new aircraft carriers, new sixth-generation fighters, new stealth bombers, and more. Even with a $1 trillion defense budget, there are limits to what you can build. But hey, let's see how this shakes out.